I see washed, sun-kissed strand. Down upon the borders, looking out upon the deep, the great Atlantic blown into a fury. Oh, I see washed, sun-kissed strand. Down upon the borders, looking out upon the deep, the great Atlantic blown into a fury. I see washed, sun-kissed strand. Down upon the borders, looking out upon the deep, the great Atlantic blown into a fury.
Yeah, my name is Jasmine Caldata from City, Vietnam, and since 1965 I become a voter, and I always place my ex next to the cup, and what they are doing today, I can't take it. So I have no more vote to give to PPP anymore. I'm not going to vote anymore no more. If they have to lose by one vote, they're losing it by data. I have none.
Looking out upon the deep, the great Atlantic blown into a fury.
You ready? Boxer, let me go now. Hear me sing now. Body walk, body walk, body walk, everything. Body walk, truck, body walk, body walk, body walk, everything. Body, listen. Body jump, body jump, body jump, everything. Body jump, body jump, body jump, body jump, everything. Hear me sing, so big body can't wear it tight pants, big body jump.
All right. Hey, guess what? Good afternoon. If you're now joining us, it's an impromptu something. And hopefully we're not going to be led down the path of stupidity. I noticed that some folks see as an enjoyment the winding up and the bouncing up and the absolutely and totally inappropriate dancing and mockery and gimmicking of or by Irfan Ali at their party's Congress. And now, any sensible, reasonably sensible person who watched that sort of, in my opinion, I would say presidential, if we want to say that term, vulgarity. And now, here's where I'll break it down for any nation to have someone who sits in the highest seat of the land, politically speaking, to be conducting himself in that manner. Is totally and absolutely unacceptable. It is making a mockery of the nation. It is disrespecting the people of the nation. And no one who sits in that office should conduct or should be allowed to conduct his or herself in that manner. They should have some sort of decorum, at least attributed to that office and that seat. We have not been seeing that by Irfan Ali since he has been installed. Some people seem to think that it is funny. Some people seem to think that it is fun. But the entire world, outside world, is watching and they're laughing. They're not laughing with us, they're laughing at us. And I say this irrespective of the amount of likes or the amount of persons who watch that mockery, who watched that circus at the PPP's Congress, is not necessarily that they are in support. A lot of people, especially our young people, and not so young, and even not so young, have watched it, and they are just laughing at the entire situation. There's nothing funny about it. Absolutely nothing. And we are beginning to wonder whether he thinks that the office that he sits in, obviously he sits there under questionable circumstances, and they're making a mockery. We have never seen this before. Some may say times have changed, but he is the only so-called head of state who behaves in this manner. We have never seen it before, and it is unacceptable. We haven't seen it by this guy. President Hugh Desmond Hoyt has never done such a thing. I'm not sure what he did privately, whether he danced like that privately, but I doubt that. And even if he did that privately, fair enough. At least there's no presidential vulgarity, as I would call it. You leave that for a nice little rub down at the fish shop and so forth by those who don't hold public office. But when you hold public office, when you are elected, or in the case of Irfan Ali, installed, you still have to respect the office. And regardless of what some people might be smiling and some people might say, oh, he's human being and he can do this and he's down to earth, you can tell that the guy, Irfan Ali that is, you can tell that Irfan Ali is just a numbskull. And this is what we have as sitting there as president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. Even when you compare, I mean, regardless of what some may say about Chetty, or some may say about Burnham, and some may say about Granger or Desmond Hoyt, we missed those days when the office of the president had a tremendous amount of decorum, respect stored in that office. Not anymore. It is just not there. I am certain that if Chetty Jagan turned up at his Congress, his party's Congress, if he wants to do a little shake, he would do a little shake. Fair enough. And that's acceptable. We saw Desmond Hoyt did a little shake. Burnham did a little shake. Granger did a little shake. Well, if we could call that shake. They all did a little shaking. And that's acceptable. But when compared to this is beyond shaking. This is an embarrassment to a nation.
How we gonna do a body man walk right now? You ready? Boxer, let me go now. Hear me sing now. Body walk, body walk, body walk, everything. Body walk, truck, body walk, body walk.
That is unacceptable. It's as though they have absolutely no respect. And even as they celebrate or they have their Congress being held, which was long overdue since 2016, but suddenly Jack Dale feels that they should have the Congress now. I'm almost certain that Dr. Chetty Jagan is obviously turning, not must be, he is obviously turning in his grave. Take a look at this conduct and tell me if it's not presidential vulgarity. If we want to address, and for those of you who address Irfan Ali as the president, at least I don't, but this is what you call, he sits in the office of the president. And so it is called presidential vulgarity. This is unacceptable.
Hey, y'all, come look at this.
Okay, forget about that. That's not what we want you guys to see. It's the wrong stuff queued up, but this is, we will get to something shortly. And I want your take on it. Forget about the couple 100,000 people who viewed it and all these manner of things. Forget about that. Let's talk about reality. Let's talk about degree of respect on the office that he holds. That is what I want us to talk about. Sorry. So let's go to this thing. All right, guys. So this is not a poppy show. Running a country is not a poppy show, and we should never uh, bring our politics down to this level. This is for the ordinary man and woman out there who have to basically, they can just go at the fish shop or wherever, and they can let loose. They can go at Bamba Mali, wherever, they can let loose, wherever they are. But when you hold certain office, look, me, I can let loose. I can go to the fish shop. I can go to Bamba Mali, and I just don't. There are times when I do my little thing. But when you are elected to serve or selected or placed into office by whatever means necessary, you have to respect the office. And so this, what Irfan Ali has done, is unacceptable. We should never allow any president of a country to behave in this manner. We never saw that with Dr. Chetty Jagan when he was president. We didn't see that with President Burnham. We didn't see that with President Granger, and neither did we see that with President Hoyt. And so these things we have to. The country is heading in the wrong direction. And, enough is enough. When will we ever stop and say enough is enough? This is not a skin teeth.
I'm gonna do a body man walk right now. You ready? Boxer, let me go now. Hear me sing now. Body walk, body walk, body walk, everything. Body walk, jump, body walk, body walk, body walk, everything. Body, listen. Body jump, body jump, body jump, everything. Body jump, body jump, body jump, body jump, everything. Hear me sing, so. Big body can't wear it tight pants. Big body jump.
Yep, sorry about that. So at no point in time, at absolutely no point in time, we can find this to be acceptable. I don't know. I'm going to read some of your comments, and certainly this is not me uh, playing as though I'm self-righteous or something. I'm just saying it is unacceptable for anyone to sit there as the head of state, be it under questionable circumstances, and behave in that manner. We never saw that before, never. And don't tell me because times have changed that we have to lower ourselves to this standard. And oftentimes he rushes around the country and he loves to say that he's a Muslim. We have never seen any Muslim person who is of the Islamic faith and they are head of states around the world. They've never behaved in this manner. Something, I'm saying to you guys, something is wrong with that little boy. Something is wrong with him. He jumps out in Brooklyn, jumps on a bike, and he's riding around, clunging around, thinking that it's cool. Since when these things are cool? You go into somebody's restaurant, you just grab the food, look there. The people are cooking, the pot is open, and you grab the roti, you clap the roti, you break it in half, you dash it, give kush, you go on stage, you take off your hat, you dash it in the audience. I don't know. I don't know if this has nothing to do with me getting older, but at the end of the day, I think that we must have some sort of respect for the office that we hold. And nobody should find this acceptable. The skin teeth and all these things. But this particular song, I don't know how many of you know the song, but this particular song, I want you guys to take a listen to it. We can't play much of it. It's basically kae rohe kae gae kase tera, right? And it is basically where they're trying to say that people are crying, as how some are crying and how some are living, and the treatment of people in general. And then you have someone who's a head of state, and people are starving throughout the country, throughout Guyana. They hardly have jobs. People are tearing apart. But while people are tearing apart, you have Irfan Ali running around the country and other places, making a mockery of the office that he sits in. And apart from that, is making a mockery of the country, regardless of your ethnicity, whether you're of East Indian descent, African descent, you're indigenous, you're Chinese, you're Portuguese, whatever you are. It is unacceptable, and we need to condemn and call for respect of the office. We've just got to stop. This is not a skin teeth era. This is sending a bad message to particularly our young people.
How we gonna do a body man walk right now? You ready? Fuck, so let me go now. Hear me sing now. Body walk, body walk, body walk, everything. Body walk, truck, body walk, body walk, body walk, everything. Body, listen. Body jump, body jump, body jump, everything. Body jump, body jump, body jump, body jump, everything. Hear me sing, so big body down, wearing tight pants, big body jump.
And, since we're celebrating, today happens to be Arrival Day. It's Arrival Day. We want to just salute all of our ancestors, whether it's African, whether it's Indian, whether it's Portuguese and Chinese. Arrival Day, many of you may think that this is just Arrival Day for just our Indian brothers and sisters, but we're talking about indentured servants. Indentured servants, and of course, May 5th is very significant to our Indian brothers and sisters who arrived on the shores of Guyana. But the Arrival Day has to do with those who arrived after emancipation, after slavery was supposedly abolished. But what a lot of people may not know is the first set of indentured servants. Let me see if some of you know this. The first set of indentured servants ever to land foot or touched the shores of Guyana were from where? The first set of indentured servants. And this is what probably some don't want you guys to know. that after slavery was supposedly abolished, guess what? The first set of indentured servants are Africans from West Africa. They had approximately 500 indentured servants, the first set of indentured servants to arrive in Guyana were from West Africa. I repeat, the first set after slavery was quote unquote abolished, they start to experiment with indentured servants. And they brought the first batch of about 500, between 400 and 500 indentured servants from West Africa. So Africans not only were enslaved, Africans were also indentured servants, and they were the first set of indentured servants to arrive in Guyana. And so the issue with arrival day, because all have arrived after, and some were forced, millions of our African ancestors were forced into slavery. But after that, the first set to arrive were Margaret Lawrence, how are you doing? Good to see you. Miss Lawrence is saying Portuguese. Yeah, but Portuguese were not. Portuguese also came as indentured servants. But the first batch of indentured servants were from Africa, West Africa. And after the first experiment with indentured servants from Africa, and they realized that they probably they weren't treating the indentured servants, the Africans who came as indentured servants, they weren't treating them properly. And so they had to go to other places such as Portugal, India. The bulk of indentured servants came from India because they rounded up our Indian ancestors, and they from the areas of India that weren't really placed that basically places that people turn their backs on. And so they rounded up those individuals, and even though they were from the very bad part, so to speak, economically bad part, and they were people who were looked down upon in India, they brought them to Guyana. And so they promised them a passage back, they promised them paid, and so forth. And so it was an exchange of whether you stay or you can go back, a free passage, and all manner of things. Those things, of course, were deprived of our African ancestors who were enslaved and for centuries in Guyana, and built the country from scratch. And then even the Africans who came to Guyana as indentured servants weren't treated better. They weren't given a passage. They weren't given anything at all. That's another story, but it's one of the things that people tend to hide. And we want to be able to ensure that our younger generation knows, or they know the truth about our history. Nevertheless, I say a happy arrival day to all those who have arrived in Guyana, our Indian brothers and sisters, our Indian ancestors, our African brothers and sisters, our African ancestors, our Chinese, and our Portuguese as well. And some folks might be sucking their teeth, but that's okay. But this song, Kaye Roe Kaye Gaye Kase Tira, it simply talks about how people are living in society. And in Guyana, there are lots of people who, as a result of cost of living, as a result of bad treatment and political victimization, regardless of their ethnic persuasion, people are feeling the squeeze. And folks are offended that in a country that is supposedly rich as Guyana, oil wealth, that this is what people have to endure. The disrespect coming from someone who sits in the office of the president. And so this song would hopefully, we can't play much of it, but we say good afternoon to our Indian brothers and sisters who are watching, and some of whom understand Hindi would know exactly what this song is about and would understand how Irfan Ali has disrespected not only the entire Indian population in Guyana, but all Guyanese have been disrespected by Irfan Ali.
कोई रोए कोई गाए कैसा तेरा संसार.
Well, basically, he's singing there about the way in which people are treated in society. Some of them are in the some of them are living the kind of life that they ought not to be living as human beings, and it's as though nobody really cares. And the question is whether Irfan Ali cares or not. We see the evidence that he doesn't care, but he makes a mockery of people in society. Whether it's Brooklyn, he makes a mockery of the people of Brooklyn. Whether it's in Guyana, he makes a mockery of the people of Guyana. And this is just a perfect example. It has got to stop. Not because people are skinning their teeth mean that they respect that or they appreciate that. The majority of us do not respect or appreciate this at all.
How we gonna do a body man walk right now? You ready? Boxer, let me go now. Hear me sing now. Body walk, body walk, body walk, everything. Body walk, jump, body walk, body walk, body walk, everything. Body, listen. Body jump, body jump, body jump, everything. Body jump, body jump, body jump, body jump, everything. Hear me sing, so big body can't wear it tight pants, big body jump.
And then we jump to this.
Hey, y'all, come look at this.
Totally unacceptable. I don't know about you guys, but I'll be looking at some of your comments to see what your thoughts are on what Irfan Ali has done to the office that he occupies, that seat that he occupies. We have never, as indicated earlier, we have never seen this sort of thing by these presidents. We have never seen that. And we have never seen that. These guys have never disrespected the office, at least not in that way. We have never seen it at all. We have never. And it's unacceptable. We need to condemn it. Just imagine if, let me just ask a question just out of a bit, being a bit mischievous. What if Burnham did that to a Buju Banton? Or back in those times, they weren't a Buju Banton. What about Yellow Man? Or whatever, back in those days, Yellow Man. What about if President Burnham was whining and backballing and doing himself in that manner, a little whine up and juke up and skin up and dash. It is unacceptable. Irfan Ali must ask himself this question, whether he wants to be a professional clown or he wants to occupy the seat of the presidency, even though, like I've said, under questionable circumstances. We have to stop. We have to find a way to restore the respect to that office. We have to. But what if it was Burnham who was dancing up like that? You think some of the people who skinning the teeth would skin the teeth? I'm just asking a question. You think if David Granger, as president, if he had done that to maybe a Buju Banton or to maybe a Beanie Man, wind up, thing up, sprawl up, they would have had a serious problem with that. It would have been unacceptable. Or what about Desmond Hoyt? It would have been a problem. So why skin or even jelly-jagging? And we know that these presidents would not have done that sort of thing. It's vulgar. It is what you call so-called high class. It's not that Irfan is high class, but we're talking about the office that he occupies, that he's squatting in. And so they do that to think that it is funny. It is slackness. It's what you call high class, stink and dirty. They love to criticize people about stink and dirty and call them all sort of things. This is what you call high class stink and dirty, and it has got to stop. We cannot keep skinning our teeth over these things, my friends. We just cannot do that.
We gonna do a body man walk right now. You ready? Boxer, let me go now. Hear me sing now. Body walk, body walk, body walk, everything. Body walk, truck, body walk, body walk, body walk, everything. Body, me say, body jump, body jump, body jump, everything. Body jump, body jump, body jump, body jump, everything. Hear me sing, so big body down here in tight pants, big body jump.
And if some of you would recall, sometime last year, the leader of the opposition, Aubrey Norton, was maybe somewhere in Essequibo, and he was doing a little joke, a little scanting, if you want to call it that, a little scanting. And guess what? Some of them in the PPP, or a lot of them in the PPP, had problems with that. And there is just an opposition leader, Aubrey Norton, doing a little scanting. I know what he was doing, but a little dancing, and those sort of things are acceptable. I'm not saying that as president of a country or installed president of a country or as an opposition leader, you can do a little shaking. Former presidents, former legitimate presidents of Guyana, Desmond Hoyt, Forbes Bornham, Dr. Chetty Jagan, and Mr. Granger, they all did their shaking. Some of them can dance. In fact, I don't think they can dance at all, but they did their little shaking. And this Paco Irfan can't dance at all, but he has a clown show. A clown show, and we must rubbish this clown show. We must say that it is unacceptable. We must restore decency and respectability to the office of the president. Look at what they have there as ministers. Look at the quality of individuals that occupy certain offices. Look at the likes of a Kwame McCoy. A convict is there, and they have others totally unacceptable. This is why, friends, come next elections, all of you must be able to do the right thing. And doing the right thing is basically voting these Pacus who are currently in the PPP. That's obviously, we can all assume that they are making the former president of Guyana, and of course the leader of the PPP, Dr. Chetty Jagan, just rolling with shame. Shame, because this is not what the party is about. This is not what he envisioned or what he thought the party would have, been degraded to a gutter kind of culture, because that's what it is. And the gutter kind of culture, it is getting worse and worse. And we're seeing it every single day. It is just getting worse and worse. And someone has to stop it. People have to say, enough is enough. The members of the PPP, they have to stand up themselves and say, enough is enough. This is not what they want their party to be. This is not what Dr. Chetty Jagan left behind. And so, as you ask yourselves that question, just wait. I'm so sorry about that, guys. There is, in fact, I got a call from someone all the way in New York, and the person, Guyanese, of course, of East Indian descent, was very, very annoyed at this whole situation with Irfan. Very annoyed, upset at every level, and couldn't believe that this is where her country is at this time. She just couldn't believe that this is where Guyana is. And I say that to say that a lot of people, regardless of who they are, whether they are of East Indian descent, It doesn't matter. People are upset. Some people might count and say, oh, look how many likes, look how many viewership. I mean, it's comical. It's comical. And people will view it. It's comic. People love to skin their teeth, yeah. But at the end of the day, it doesn't mean because they get a couple 100,000 views mean that is being seen as an acceptable norm. People are shocked, but they're not going to come out in their numbers and say that they're totally disappointed in what they saw at the PPP's Congress. People are disappointed, and rightly so. If it was Granger, they would have condemned it. The Private Sector Commission, the churches, the CIOG. They're not. CIOG is not going to condemn that. The Hindu Dharmic Sabha wouldn't condemn that. The Christian churches, they're not going to condemn that either. But I bet you if it was Granger, they were going to issue a statement immediately that this is not how a president of a country should be acting and behaving, and all manner of things. I wonder if the CIOG and other Muslim organizations in Guyana find this to be acceptable, an acceptable norm for someone who claims to be a Muslim, as Irfan Ali, who claims to be a Muslim, who goes around telling people, Assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum assalam, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alhamdulillah, and so forth and so on. Whether he means it or he's just mocking Islam, we know he's mocking the entire Guyanese population. And again, without repeating myself, it has got to stop. It has got to stop one way or the other. This behavior is getting worse, guys. It's as though he doesn't think. Well, we know he's not a deep thinker, but obviously he doesn't think before he acts. He doesn't think before he speaks. And my friends, all of you who are watching, it is dangerous for a country to have someone who is as erratic as he is to be head of state of a country. It is what you call dangerous times for all of our people. Take a look at this.
How we gonna do a body man walk right now? You ready? Boxer, let me go now. Hear me sing now. Body walk, body walk, body walk, everything. Body walk, truck, body walk, body walk, body walk, everything. Body, listen. Body jump, body jump, body jump, everything. Body jump, body jump, body jump, body jump, everything. Hear me sing, so big body can't wear it tight pants, big body jump.
All right. So, when will we have folks condemning this sort of behavior? And that's my question. When will we have? It has to be condemned. The churches have to condemn it. I wonder if their pastors and reverends and so forth who are watching would find this to be acceptable coming from a head of state. We're seeing it all the time. All the time we're seeing it. And again, I repeat, it is getting worse and worse and worse. We saw what happened in Brooklyn when he made a mockery of those people there. Saw a bicycle on the pavement. And those of you who understand New York or maybe other parts of the US, riding your bike on the pavement is illegal. And you can be issued with a citation. Walking into people's restaurants and just clapping roti and throwing a piece and give your friend kush. Say, hey, kush, take that. It is unacceptable. These are things, look at it, and this is where we have to break down the thinking, the level of thinking of this infantile individual. His thinking and his actions are worse than a first grader or a pre-K child. And I have a lot of respect for pre-K and first graders and so forth. A lot of them are very smart. But this first grader, this pre-K, is not smart at all. Look at the things that he does, guys. I see Audrey Brown saying low IQ, below low IQ. This is unacceptable. Look, walks into someone's kitchen in Brooklyn. And this is why a lot of people are saying that even some of these establishments that he visited, that they are boycotting. And I agree with the folks who are boycotting, and I hope the boycott continues, and I hope the boycott can spread into other areas as well. Some who are affected would come up and they would do their live to say that they are not affected, that it's not affecting them. That is just a show, right, Colin Barnwell? I'm sure if Colin, whenever he's in Brooklyn, take a look or drive around, he would see that the boycott is affecting. And this is what this guy has caused. Irfan Ali, look, let's look at this here, his actions again. He walks into someone's kitchen, and this is a restaurant, right? This is a bakery. This is a restaurant. That's another story. The restaurant, the condition, but that's another story. Makes me gotta be careful now where I eat roti and eat my little cocoa or my little dal. Having said that, this guy doesn't think. He's not a thinker. We know that. He walks into these people's kitchen in a restaurant. Look, they have their roti there and or bread or whatever they're preparing to mix. He jump, he clap a roti, he mix it, he do whatever he did. He broke a piece, he dash it, he kush, say kush, eat this. Kush, eat bare roti, no water, no juice. And Irfan doesn't care because he thinks it is funny. He thinks it is cool. And look at what he has caused to some of those businesses in Brooklyn. People are boycotting the businesses. As Colin Barnwell says, the boycott is working. And we urge you guys to continue to boycott those businesses. This is not mixing words and being a pussycat and say people should hold back their money. We get straight to the point, as Dr. David Himes has said, as the leader of the opposition. Aubrey Norton said, as we commentators such as Kadaki and Wayne Caesar and others have said, and all of you practically, every single one of you out there, except maybe one or two who, for some, maybe out of whatever, they don't want to use the word boycott. But this is how changes come around. Boycott, simple as that. Boycott those businesses until they respect you as a people. They got to respect you respect your community. And we must be able to say, never again must these things happen. Never, never again must these things happen. Never again. Never again must these things happen. Never, ever again. Never again. Do not bring a dictator. Do not bring someone who disrespects your community into your community and feel that it is okay. It is not okay, guys. It is unacceptable. And anyone who tells you that it is okay, something is wrong with their brain. Any politician, whether it is Jervin Figueroa or whomever, tell you that it is okay and that it is wrong to boycott, something is wrong with them. And anybody who tried to sugarcoat things are just doing it on the basis of maybe they want to vote, maybe they want to sound nice, maybe they want people to feel that they're fair. And anyone who is against the community when it comes to this boycott, it simply means they are in bed with the oppressors. Simple, right, Francine Cruz? As simple as that. They are in bed with the oppressors, because if they can think and if they can support embracing the oppressors, well, then you've got to be careful, especially with politicians who coming to you, not a heck of a lot of them, to tell you that you should embrace those who have enabled the oppressors to go into your community, and that we should. And some of them walking into some establishment and they're taking photographs and they're mocking the entire community when they do that. They're mocking the majority of you who believe that a boycott is the way forward. Be careful, my friends. Be careful with those individuals. Now let's get back. And I'm saying that the majority of our Indian brothers and sisters are annoyed. Don't believe that because they're not coming out, and because not just our Indian brothers and sisters, all Guyanese are annoyed at what Irfan Ali did at his, the party's Congress. All Guyanese ought to be annoyed and ashamed.
Hey, y'all, come look at this.
With that said, now there's this song that speaks about love and respect and all these different things. So those of you who know it, Kasime Wadi Pyar Wafa, right? Listen to the words, and the older Indian folks watching will understand exactly what this means. And the fact of the matter is, Irfan Ali doesn't have any love or respect for Guyana. He has no love or respect for the people of Guyana.
लेटेस्ट अपडेट्स के लिए अल्ट्रा चैनल्स को सब्सक्राइब करें और बेल आइकन को प्रेस करें।
कसमें वादे प्यार वफा सब बातें हैं बातों का क्या, कसमें वादे प्यार वफा सब बातें हैं बातों का क्या, कोई किसी
and it is quite fitting for the moment, quite fitting indeed, that at a time where folks are going through tremendous crisis in Guyana, only to have someone who sits there as the head of state, the questionable head of state, is destroying our beautiful country. At every level, Guyana is being destroyed. And all of us, the majority of us, must at some point in time say, enough is enough. And these sort of things coming from someone who is sitting or occupying the seat of the presidency is unacceptable.
How we gonna do a body man walk right now? You ready? Folks, let me go now. Hear me sing now. Body walk, body walk, body walk, everything. Body walk, truck, body walk, body walk, body walk, everything. Body, listen. Body jump, body jump, body jump, everything. Body jump, body jump, body jump, body jump, everything. Hear me sing, so big body can't wear it tight pants, big body jump.
You can just close your eyes and imagine what Chetty Jagan must be feeling right now. A shame upon this entire nation. Shame upon this entire nation. And that is what Irfan Ali has done. And that is what they are doing in terms of bringing that shame to the entire Guyanese population at every level. So at some point in time, it has got to stop. It has got to stop. I know it's Sunday evening, afternoon, and so I appreciate that you guys have taken the time out to be with us right here on 107.1 FM. But it is indeed a shameful act. Some of their commentators would want to cuss and say all manner of things. But remember what they are about, right? They're not patriots. They're a bunch of mad men and women. Most of them who definitely don't know what they're talking about. They don't understand the history. They don't understand politics. It's just basically a little hustle. You just break a piece of roti and you dash it, give them. You take off your hat and you do a joke. And that's what Guyana has turned to. We've got to restore respect and decency to our highest office and other offices. We must be able to restore that. For now, I'm out of here. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon, morning, or night, wherever you are. But we've got to pray for a better Guyana. At every level, we've got to pray for a better Guyana. We're not seeing that better Guyana. under Irfan Ali and Jack Dale and the PPP. So next elections, guys, be prepared to vote these pacos out of office. And remember the boycott. With some of those businesses in Brooklyn, it continues. The boycott continues. It's affecting them. Well, so be it. They must go out and apologize to the community. I'm out of here, guys. See you guys next time, right here. And we must again condemn this.
How we gonna do a body man walk right now? You ready? Boxer, let me go now. Hear me sing now. Body walk, body walk, body walk, everything. Body walk, truck, body walk, body walk, body walk, everything. Body, listen. Body jump, body jump, body jump, everything. Body jump.
Yeah, my name is Jacinty Caldata, Francis Vietnam, and since 1965, I become a voter. And I always place my ex next to the cop. And what they are doing today, I can't take it. So I have no more vote to give to PPP anymore. I'm not going to vote anymore no more. If they have to lose by one.
Oh, Jesus Christ, if cost of living double, I don't know what happened. A pound of sugar is $300 already. Flour, everything gone up. Everything just raising. You gotta get about $40,000 for buy good ration. You gotta get 3 man now. A weekend man, a monthly man, and a fortnight man.
Recordings just got better.